Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back to Mr. J's Big Book of Movies, where my quest is to find the best movies in the land to put into my Big Book of Movies. What is the Big Book of Movies? The Big Book of Movies is a personal collection of films I feel should be immortalized for what they are. What does it take to get into the Big Book? That's what we do here every Saturday to find out. Today is episode B of the Friday Trilogy. A viewer, Mr. V. Smith, had requested we do the Friday Trilogy and see if we feel that the entire storyline is as impactful as my analysis of Friday as we did with the African American History Month. So I said I was going to break it up into three films. We did Next Friday first. Today we're going to do the Friday after next. And then next week we're going to do the entire trilogy. So it's A, B, and C. This is B. And we're going to be doing the Friday after next. The Friday After Next was released November 22nd, 2002, and was directed by Marcus Raboy, I don't know. IMDb states that Craig and Day Day have finally moved out of their parents' houses and into their own crib. The cousins work nights at a local mall as security guards. When their house is robbed on Christmas Eve, they team up to track them down. No, that's not the fucking plot of the film. First of all, they don't even work nights. Once again, this is Friday. This is a Friday movie. It takes place in an 18-hour day. You know what I'm saying? They got robbed at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it takes place at like 12 o'clock at night. Second, technically, they weren't even looking for the Santa Claus that robbed them. They tried to attack them when they were in their apartment, but other than that, they really weren't looking for them. It wasn't until the actions of that day they physically saw the Santa Claus and then tracked him down. So no, they weren't even looking for the Santa Claus the entire day. So I disagree with this premise 100%. If I were to say something, I'd say something like, Craig and Day Day have moved in with each other for about a year, and it's finally Christmas Eve. Unbeknownst to them, at about 3 o'clock in the morning, a robber takes their rent money. Will they be able to pay their rent by the end of the day? Starting at the top with the rewatch factor, I actually give this movie a 3. I understand there's a lot of profane language in this film, but I feel that where you would actually see this on TV, you would actually have it on and continue watching it. It is a very funny movie. I feel that they moved away from the slapstick of Next Friday and moved into situational comedy, which is what made the original Friday really, really funny. But they lacked in other areas. Like, you can see the whole narrative portion died down, and this actually felt almost like a spin-off movie, and it really didn't connect well at all to the rest of the franchise. As far as storyline goes, I'm going to give the Friday After Next a 2. How do we get our rent money? That was the story. The whole multiple stories going on at one time has been diminished. And yes, there's other characters, and we see small portions of other characters. But we don't follow their storylines. So the entire story follows Craig and Day Day. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like I said before, it almost feels like this movie is a spin-off and has nothing to do with the rest of the trilogy. And I feel it did do a good job by itself, but I also feel that there was nothing, like there's no big reveal. You pretty much could figure out what they were going to do frame by frame, except the party, you know, how they're going to get their rent money. They had a big party, and like you couldn't predict that. But I mean, it was a very basic storyline. Characters, and for once, characters gets a good score. I gave characters a 3. Not because of character development, because there was none, but because of the acting. They stopped using and recycling jokes, except you got knocked the fuck out. I mean, that's kind of a Friday staple. I guess that's why it's still in there. But I mean, they use fresh acting, fresh jokes. They used the bickering between Pops and Uncle Elroy. You know, they used fresh stories, so nothing was recycled. And I liked that, and I felt refreshed by that you're watching something totally different. So I definitely give characters a 3. It was nice to see a change, and I feel it helped it, at the same time hurt it. Appearance receives a 3. It looks good. It looks like they paid to make this movie look good. It wasn't great, you know, it wasn't flawless, but it didn't look cheap. You know, the only complaint that I really have is when the Santa Claus got hit by the limousine and he tumbled over the top of the limo. It looked cheap. I think it was supposed to, but I mean, you can tell the entire movie that they paid attention to detail and they used, you know, very like high quality cameras and everything. It didn't look cheap. I applaud them for that. I thank them for that, you know, and just to, you know, you get the seal of approval for that. Last but not least, this may surprise a lot of people, I give enjoyment a 4. This was a very funny movie, and I didn't realize how funny it was. I mean, I've seen it multiple times before, and I laughed here and there, but I never analyzed it. When doing the podcast and doing the video podcast here, I pay a lot more attention to films, and I see a lot more things than I didn't before. And I didn't realize how funny this film actually is. And I applaud it for that. It's not quite 5. I wasn't dying laughing. I'm not asking people to stop what they're doing and watch this film. So it only gets a 4, but this also gets the seal of approval. Alright, so what does all this mean? We're going to add up the 5 categories. Why? Because the 5 categories equals a score. And that score equals a grade. So we have the rewatch factor being a 3. The storyline being a 2. The characters being a 3. The appearance being a 3. And the enjoyment being a 4. Altogether, that equals a 15. That 15 equals a C. Surprised it didn't get a B. I would say this was a B movie. I don't know what I would change to get it to a B. But I would say this was a B movie. With all that being said, does the Friday After Next get into the big book of movies? Fuck no. No. I feel this is one of those guilty pleasure movies. Like, what do they call them? So bad it's good. I feel this falls into that category. But am I gonna remember this movie forever? No, not as much as Friday. But I don't want to immortalize this film. Well, that's all the time we have here on Mr. J's Big Book of Movies. we took a look at Friday, we took a look at next Friday, and we took a look at the Friday after next individually. So next week we are going to look at the 3 films as a trilogy to see if the message, and that's one thing about next Friday, I don't feel it had a message at all. You saw them go full circle from the ghetto to the suburbs and back to the ghetto, and I feel the Friday after next had no narrative. You know, you barely heard Craig explaining the movie and what's going on, and that's why I feel it's like a spin-off, because there was no narrative. It was just all events trying to accomplish this one goal. And I feel that helped and hurt the movie at all, you know. And so when we look at the trilogy, it's going to be hard to splice this one in there. So I am excited about next week's show C. In the meantime, you can listen to me on my podcast, Eye for an Eye with Mr. J. It's available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Stitcher. You can follow me on Facebook, our Facebook fan page at I for Mr. J, our Twitter page at I for an Eye, spelled just like the podcast. Email me anytime, anywhere, mws_216@yahoo.com. And underneath, right there, comment and subscribe. That's how I know I'm doing a good job. And as far as I'm concerned, this chapter is now closed.